continue the story of the return of the Death Eater in her own words.
I was so sick that they couldn't wait for the ambulance. My neighbor on the first floor, a burly man, lifted me up in his arms. He took me to the alley and laid me down on the mattress in the back of his car. Before he left, I heard him tell his wife to immediately tell his brother, "I'll take him to the hospital." The hospital was the closest hospital to my apartment. Despite the pain, I was glad he was taking me there. Because my cousin was a nurse at that hospital, I would faint from pain in the car and regain consciousness every now and then. When we got to the hospital emergency room, they brought a stretcher and took me inside. I was in terrible pain. I screamed several times and they knocked me unconscious. "Please help me so I don't suffer so much." But I kept fainting and regaining consciousness. Once I regained consciousness, I saw my cousin and brothers above me, all of them crying. The woman next door had called my older brother. He had also informed the rest of my brothers and my cousin. I was in the operating room from 8 at night until 9 the next morning. 13 hours. I was unconscious for 3 days after the operation. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in the ICU. My brothers had come to see me. There was so much equipment hanging around my bed that I could barely see anyone. On the 5th day, I was in the ICU. It was around 8 a.m. My aunt had come to the ICU from her ward to see me. She was talking to me when I started having severe pains, one more brutal than the other. And then the last pain, the most brutal pain. If I say it was the hardest and most crushing pain possible, I'm not exaggerating. After that, all my muscles tightened and my neck stuck to my shoulder. While hearing vague sounds, I plunged into the darkness. In that darkness, I felt like a sheath that was being separated from a solid body simultaneously. I could clearly see that my pain was getting less and less. There was even a time when I had no pain anymore, and I felt like I was floating horizontally in the air. After a while, I felt like I was vertical and suspended in the room. The dark space gradually turned into a blurry space, as if everything and everyone was submerged in milk. But it didn't take long before I was able to see my surroundings clearly. I was hallucinating. I was on the floor near the ceiling of the ICU, about 1.5 meters above the surface, in a vertical position, and I thought I was leaning slightly forward. I couldn't see myself at all. Like, to be just an I was very confused at first. My mind was almost blank. It's true that I could see things around me, but I had no ability to reason at all. I didn't know what had happened. I still hadn't come to believe that I was dead. After a while, I asked myself why I was up here. Why didn't I feel any pain anymore? Why did I suddenly feel better? And I really felt better, in a wonderful way. If you know, I was very cheerful, comfortable, and light. I was experiencing an unparalleled peace and a very enjoyable weightlessness. I must say, I was gradually able to understand the truth. Based on Earth time, maybe just a few fleeting seconds, or maybe less than a second. I'm not sure. Listen, there is no time in the world of death. If I mention a specific time, I mean earthly time. That is, I am describing events in terms of the time of the material world. In the material world, a few seconds are a short time, like a few ticks of a clock. In the world of death, these few earthly seconds can pass by So long that you think that several hours or several earthly years have passed. You know, an ethereal being can hear a lot of things in a second or in a thousandth of an earthly second. It can see a lot of things. It can think about them and come to a reasonable conclusion. Sorry, I did not manage to express what I have in mind. Well, I think I never will. I saw the ICU in an open way, like photos taken with a super wide lens. Apparently, I was in a specific spot, but I could see everyone in every corner. A short time later, I realized that I was lying on the bed with a bruised face and rolled back eyes. But I didn't know that I was dead. And one very interesting thing was that I could see my body from 6 directions: from the top, from the bottom, from the feet, from the head, from the sides. There were also some silver threads attached to my body, like fibers that, well, at first I was really confused. I kept asking myself, if he was me, then who am I? The one above? I felt like I had become 2 people. One of my 2 selves was on the hospital bed and the other was above, and I was thinking, how could such a thing be possible? Finally, I came to a logical answer. There was only one way such a thing could be: that I was dead. At that moment, I deeply understood that I was dead. I didn't panic. I was very happy. Happy because I realized that I still exist, that I was still alive. Although, in another way, because I realized that I still had the power of sight, hearing, and smell, even though I did not have a physical body. In addition, I realized that death was a good thing, at least for me. It was very good for 3 reasons. One was that I was saved from those intense pains. I was so far away from any pain that I cannot describe. Another reason was the strange peace I felt. And the last reason was the great pleasure that I had because of weightlessness. In that very light and very free state, I believed in survival before death. I was reaching certainty at that time, and I realized something more important. I not only existed, but also compared to my material half, I was more complete, more capable, more conscious, freer, more amazing. You see, I was more transcendent in my new nature than before. Even my sense of hearing, smell, and sight had become much stronger. Especially my sight, for example. I could see beyond the ICU. From where I was, I could see the entire hospital, all the rooms, corridors, wards, everyone who was inside the hospital building or in the outer area. It was like looking at a model of a large building, but without a roof, as if the roof of the entire hospital had been removed. The roof of the rooms, corridors, and all the wards. And another extraordinary thing: I knew the names of everyone who was in the hospital. Let me explain about the silver threads. I'm afraid I'll forget. The silver threads were very fine threads that extended from my physical skull to where my etheric being was. Of course, they could extend to infinity. I can hardly describe it as resembling threads or silvery, shiny threads of waves and light, somewhat like a spider's web that sparkles in the sun and after rain. But unlike a spider's web, they were very strong. Later, I learned that the material body and the ethereal being are connected by these threads. At the time of human death, that is, the original death, with complete death, the silver threads are severed. In other words, as long as the threads are not severed, the ethereal being can return to the body. After I got used to the state of death, and of course, it only took a few seconds, or even less in Earth time, for me to notice my aunt standing next to my body in shock. Suddenly, a tall nurse quickly walked to my bed, looked at the machine, and ran to the hallway. She wanted to inform Dr. Fayaz about the situation. Dr. Fayaz was in the hallway talking to two nurses. I could hear her clearly, explaining to them the condition of one of the patients. The patient in bed number 3 was in the middle of her conversation when the tall nurse called her. Dr. Sahar. Sahar was gone. Dr. Fayaz hurriedly ran down the CU and reached my body. Several nurses gathered around the doctor. Mr. Fayaz shouted at them, "Keep this place quiet." The nurses moved aside, but my aunt was still standing there stunned. Fayaz warned her, "Why don't you stand aside?" One of the nurses quietly told the doctor that she was Sahar's aunt. The doctor, stunned, bent over my body. He tried to take the necessary measures. My aunt was interfering with his work. The doctor slapped her. "Get out of here, don't touch me." My cousin didn't move. Mr. Fayaz went forward and stood in front of her and slapped her twice. He wanted to break her out of her state of shock. After being slapped twice, my cousin pulled away a little. A blonde nurse with sad eyes ran forward, grabbed her by the arm, and took her out of the ICU. Not before she died, but I knew her very well at that moment. Mrs. A 32-year-old, originally from Kermani, had 2 children, a daughter and a son. When my cousin passed away, the room went out. Dr. Fayaz said to one of the nurses, "This girl has had a stroke. Quickly take the brain section. Tell Dr. Rezai to bring her here." The nurse said that she didn't think he was Dr. Rezai in the hospital today. Fayaz said impatiently, "Yes, I saw him a quarter of an hour ago. I was in my previous place and I was very curious to know what would happen next. In the meantime, it was interesting to me to see everyone anxiously surrounding my body. I felt good because of their loving concern. Of course, I didn't want to go back to the world, but seeing all that kindness made me happy. So, in the opportunity I have, I thank all of them. One can never understand the depth of their affection, except when they are lying on a hospital bed, alone, in pain and needy. And then finally, Dr. Rezai came. He was very dominant and very quick. He examined my body and gave me some instructions. The nurse lay down on a bed in the next room for a few minutes and then went back to the ICU. He stayed there for a while. Then he thought it would be better to tell my uncle about my stroke. Actually, he first decided to inform my older brother, but in the end, he preferred to tell his uncle. Finally, he went outside to call his uncle. According to worldly time, I was out of my body for a total of half an hour, although I wasn't up there the whole time. After 20 minutes, I changed my position after what happened in the ICU. A nurse named Zara was passing by my bed when her foot got caught on a cable, and she fell hard to the ground. I suddenly wanted to go near him and see what had happened to him, according to one of our earthly habits. We have a habit on earth of reaching out to someone when something happens to them. After death, a person cannot abandon all his former habits for a long time. So in a moment, I wanted to be near him. As soon as I tried to feel myself next to him, I saw that one of his toes was injured, and blood was coming out of that area. His big toe was... It was an important experience for me to suddenly reach him. I immediately understood that an ethereal being can be transported from one place to another very easily. All it takes is for him to will, and with the help of my will, I could be anywhere I wanted. This was a kind of entertainment for me for a while, a kind of childish entertainment. Right there next to the nurse, I willed to go to the hospital yard. Suddenly, I was in the hospital yard. People were passing by me, sometimes even passing through me. I didn't feel anything special. It was like I was a shadow passing through me, or like I was a piece of light passing through me. I didn't feel any pain or pressure, except for the yard. Excuse me, let me tell you something interesting. A woman passed by me in the hospital grounds. While she was holding her baby in her arms, it is natural that the woman did not notice me at all. But I realized that her baby had been able to see me. From her looks and movements, I realized that she was 1 year and 8 months old. She was 1 year, 8 months, and 10 days old when she was in her mother's arms. Dot. He smiled at me and even waved his little fingers at me. I don't know why I wanted to be there. Anyway, I was there as soon as I wanted to. There were 2 people in uniform on guard duty, one named Jalil and the other named Nasser. In front of each of them was a glass of tea. Suddenly, the phone rang. Jalil picked up the phone and was talking. Nasser looked at his glass. A green insect had fallen into the glass. After a while, he took the insect out with his fingertip and looked at Jalil. Jalil was focused on the phone. Nasser quickly exchanged his glass with Jalil's glass and grinned. This wasn't the only ugly thing I saw from him. As a result, I asked him to go back to the ICU. After that, I was in the ICU. I didn't even miss my brothers, even though I loved them very much. I'll say it again. There is nothing more beautiful and soothing than death. After death, you have infinite freedom, peace. You don't worry about today and tomorrow. There are no disturbing factors. Pain, sorrow, longing, sadness. Despite all this, I unfortunately returned to my body. In fact, they brought me back. I don't remember completely. I was upstairs when suddenly the scene went dark. I didn't see anything anymore. I just realized that I was inside my body. I was told that I was in a coma for a few days. I was in the dark, but I wasn't always unaware. It's true that I couldn't see anything, but sometimes I heard the voices of those around me. I repeat, only sometimes I heard all the voices for about 20 minutes, and then the voices stopped. After a while, I would hear it again, and after a few minutes, it would stop again. The voices of the nurse, the doctor, and everyone around me. Once a nurse said to her colleague, "It's really a shame that this girl is dying. By God, I am ready to give her any part of my body that is needed. Give her so that she can live." I could hear what they were saying about other patients, but I heard the words about myself louder and clearer. Once I felt my older brother's tears fall down my forehead. I heard the doctor tell him that I am not able to perform a miracle and bring your sister back. We must ask God to heal her. You have to be strong and endure. If you continue like this, you will explode. My brother cried and said, "I can't see Sahar in this state. It's very, very hard for me." 4 days. On the 4th day, I came out of the coma in extreme pain. I heard a nurse scream. Sahar came to her senses and opened her eyes. Another nurse said, "Thank God 100,000 times. I knew you would bring her back to life." The first nurse asked me, "Are you in pain?" My eyes were open, but I couldn't see her or her colleague. I said, "I can't see you." She asked, surprised, "Can't you see?" I replied, "No." She said, "It's nothing serious. You've been in a coma for a few days. That must be why. Don't worry at all. You'll see everything in a few minutes." She called the doctor with great joy. Then the doctor came to my older brother. My older brother came. My other brothers also came. but I couldn't see them. 10 days passed, and I didn't see anything or anyone. Oh, blindness. A lone dot. It wasn't my problem. Unfortunately, the right side of my body was also paralyzed. At the hospital, they ran a lot of tests on me. The most famous ophthalmologist came and examined me. The most skilled neurologist came. Several other specialists also visited me. It was no use. I was a paraplegic who had lost my sight forever. I was not upset because I was sure that I would die soon. I knew very well that my pelvis was broken. I knew that part of my intestine, spleen, and liver had been removed. I knew that the right side of my body was paralyzed. I knew that I had lost a lot of weight and was slowly fading away. My body was actually the remnant of the girl they called Sahar. In this situation, I didn't think I had even a 100% chance of surviving, so I wasn't afraid of blindness. I thought blindness was the last stage of my life, the last stage that would definitely pass very soon. Anyway, 10 nights after I came out of the coma, I had another stroke. That night I was lying on the bed. There was no nurse in the room. The TV in the hallway was on. The nurses had turned the volume up a little for me. I was listening to the news announcer. Suddenly, the announcer's voice stopped and the world fell into silence. Suddenly, I found myself up near the ceiling of the ICU. This time, I had died much easier and faster. My body didn't even contract like last time. My head didn't fall on my shoulder. I could see everything from up there again. I noticed that most of the lights had been turned off for the comfort of the patients. I saw that the machines next to my bed were on. I don't know why the machine didn't give an alarm dot. For a while, no nurse came near me in the entire building, the entire outer area, and even the guard room. But this time, I didn't hear any sound. I could see the nurses standing together in the middle of the corridor, but I couldn't hear their voices, while I could see their lips moving. I knew what they were saying. I just couldn't hear their voices. After about 5 minutes, from above, I saw that one of the nurses in the corridor turned her head. She opened her mouth and said loudly, meaning I understood that she was saying loudly, "Sahar, do you want me to change the TV channel?" When she didn't hear an answer, she said in her heart, "Why isn't Sahar answering? Should I go and see if he's asleep?" She walked, entered the ICU, climbed on top of me, and put her head close to my face. Her lips moved again and again. Without hearing her voice, I understood that she was asking me, "Sahar, are you asleep?" He grabbed my hand and then shook my face. Suddenly, I felt scared. I felt like he was shouting, "Come on, kids. I think Sahar has had another stroke." The nurses rushed into the room, and a moment later, one of them called the doctor. It took a minute for the doctor to come. He diagnosed that I had had another stroke and started his work. This time, he spent more time up there than before. The doctor was still busy with my body when suddenly it became crowded around him. I saw that everyone was looking at the monitor. At that moment, I realized that I no longer had a hearing problem. Now I could hear sounds clearly. I heard the doctor tell the nurses, "Hurry up, he's having a cardiac arrest." I heard other sentences in the next few minutes. "He has no pulse. His blood flow has stopped. Start CPR. What are you looking at, Mrs. Fahimi? Hurry up. Intubate him. Oxygen. Cardiac massage. 1 milligram of adrenaline. Cardiac massage. 1 milligram of atropine. Check the monitor carefully. Make sure the connections are intact. Another milligram of adrenaline. Heart won't start." I was sure I was done. I prayed that. May God forgive me for what I had done and what I had not done. In fact, it was God's will that I return to my body. Immediately after the last shock, I felt a force pulling me towards my body, but it seemed to be difficult to connect me to my body. It was as if I weighed millions of tons. In any case, I was gradually pulled forward. The silver threads became shorter as I went forward. Finally, I felt myself standing on my big toes. At that time, the big toes of my body were stuck together. After those same big toes, I began to enter my body. I immediately realized that my fingers were filled with warm energy. I moved forward layer by layer on my legs, gradually reaching my knees and groin. To understand better, you can imagine my body like a hollow glass statue. A hollow glass statue that is given energizing steam from below. This steam filled the parts of my body and moved forward. At the same time, my organs came to life one by one. I moved forward in my body until I finally reached the last point of my skull. At that moment, a happy voice, I heard the doctor say, "The danger is over." His heart started working again, and a few minutes later, I could still hear the sounds around me. May God have mercy on him. He had a stroke. Nurse Gane told Nurse Amani what happened to her. "You can't believe what I saw." Sahar came out of the coma and sat for a few moments. Nurse Gane came forward and asked me if Sahar was okay. I replied, "I'm fine. Do you know I can see again?" She was surprised and put her fingers on her lips. "What did you say? Can you see?" Yes. She didn't believe it. "It's impossible. If you're telling the truth, tell me what I'm wearing." I laughed and replied, "Okay, you're wearing a nurse's uniform. You also have a red pen in your hand." She was extremely happy. She quickly turned on all the lights. She called the other nurses and went to bring Dr. Rezai. Nurse Ahmadi explained the story to Dr. Rezai. The doctor shook her head at her statements and said, "This is impossible. It's impossible for him to sit on the bed. Half of his body is completely paralyzed. The other half doesn't feel much. Plus," Nurse Amity interrupted her and said, "But I saw with my own eyes that he sat down, but only for a short time. But he sat down. Now, leaving this aside, what do you say about his eyes?" His eyes see Dr. Rezai standing next to me, staring at me with a skeptical look. Then he opened 3 of the buttons of the cover and asked me, "Can you tell me what I'm wearing under my cover?" I replied, "Let me see a blue blouse." "There was a strand of hair right under the collar of your blouse." The doctor pulled down his blouse a little and saw the strand of hair and picked it up. He became very agitated, grabbed my right wrist and squeezed it. A weak "ah" came out of my throat. He asked, "Do you feel pain?" I said, "Yes. I even felt the heat of your fingers, which means my body feels it. Yes, my right side is no longer paralyzed." Tears welled up in his eyes. "So suddenly you're completely healed?" No, my eyes became completely clear. I was no longer paralyzed. My left side also became stronger. But some of the internal parts of my body still had problems. Of course, from the moment the miracle happened, those parts started to heal at the speed of light. I was getting better, day by day, hour by hour, second by second, so that after 4 days I had no more problems and was discharged from the hospital. There is no end to the story. That story is not just a piece of my past. It has also affected my present and future. Of course, I am grateful. I witnessed a miracle with all my being. Although from one perspective, we have all witnessed many miracles over and over again. The whole of existence is a miracle. The sky, the earth, the body we live in. Well, some of these changes are physical, some are purely spiritual. The most important of them is that I have fallen deeply in love with God. I used to love God, but now I love Him. I want to connect myself to Him in any way possible. You don't know how much I love Him. It's because of Him. If I breathe, if I get up, if I speak, if I remain silent, if I help someone. Today I know with complete certainty that God is the absolute owner. This means that nothing is in my possession. My house, my earrings, even the bread on my table, all belong to Him. Everything I take with me to that world, my actions. That's why I try to be good. I try to be a good girl. If you want a short answer, yes, that gentleman showed me heaven. Heaven is a place of beauty, incredibly beautiful. It is not right to behave well in order to get a piece of heaven. Those who do good to get a piece of heaven do not have principled thinking. This kind of thinking is very superficial. No, it is not sublime. I will give you an example to make it clearer. There are two groups of people who brush their teeth. One group brushes their teeth to have healthy teeth. The other group brushes their teeth to keep their teeth white and shiny. The result is no different, but the type of thinking is different. That is why we consider the first group to be understanding people and the second group to be superficial people. Let's be good for the sake of God Himself, God's satisfaction, not for the sake of acquiring a piece of heaven. I believed that I deserved such a favor. Maybe because of His chastity, it is easy for an ugly person to be chaste. A beautiful, very beautiful person will never be as safe as an ugly person. No, beauty is not always a blessing. It usually brings about a spiritual downfall rather than a material ascent. I look at my second life as a divine blessing, as a great opportunity to become a better person. Now I know pretty much what I have to do with the rest of my life. You know, all I'm trying to do is stay away from sin. I don't want to sink into the pits of the world like I used to. I don't want to be in the world anymore. I consider the material world to be just a stopover, a place full of dangerous traps that I must protect myself from. I have never been cruel, but after that experience, I feel a lot of compassion in myself. It is true that it is not obvious from my appearance, but believe me, I have become much kinder than before. Any kind of help I can give is one of our most important duties in the world. After that, my sixth sense has become much more intense. Whenever I wear a watch on my wrist, its hands stop moving. Whenever I pick up a mobile phone, its receiver and transmitter system stops working. I think the death experience has caused changes in the electromagnetic field of my body. This is what makes the mobile phone useless, or the watch malfunctioning. Now you can understand why I do not have a mobile phone or a watch. Another change is that I have become a painter of religious art. Earlier, I used to see images on the palm of my hand and paint them on canvas. I used to, but I've been visualizing and drawing images in my mind for a while now. Each painting was an artistic and spiritual masterpiece, moving, breathtaking, perfect, extraordinary, a miracle in every sense of the word.
Thank you for being with me so far. If you are interested in hearing true stories like this, share your opinion with me and subscribe to me above to stay with me.